We've got a lovely author coming on right now. Hence, my rant is going to be slightly different from a writer's point of view because I myself have authored 18 books. Okay, maybe five or six. Can't remember after drinking. Many of them happened. But I was thinking, I saw Spider Man yesterday with my wife and my daughter in that order. My wife and daughter. By the way, it's great to go with the family because they make you sit one seat away from each other. So you're with the family, but you're still alone. Wonderful. When there, the end of Spider-Man, spoiler alert, shouldn't tell you, but basically a magic spell is cast for which everybody forgets he is the Spider-Man. The end result of that is law of physics, where every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Win some, lose some. So he gets his identity saved again, and no one knows who he is. But with that, he loses his girlfriend, who doesn't know who he is. All right. I was thinking, why couldn't they have compensated? Why couldn't they have changed that? Why couldn't they have just given him another perspective and let him end happy instead of sad? Which is he loses the girlfriend, but now he's free to date other girls. They could just end it with that premise, and all the men watching would have been, yay! Now I'll ask you, the person coming on is the person to tell us the architect of stories and tell us how and why that mistake was not looked at in Spider-Man from the perspective of male viewers who are 83% of Avenger watchers. Now, let's invite on our show Vani Kaushal, whose book, by the way, is right here in my hands. Let me not cover it. Here it is. Oh, it's there.
Thank
Oh,
you,
God, look at that.
Cyrus.
Vani, both of us have it. Seconds later.
Wow. Yes.
Huh. And
Yes.
okay, you showed first, seconds later. Show it. Show the book.
Yeah.
Seconds later. And watch this. Seconds later, it's with me. Huh? Huh.
Yeah,
Love it.
that's the perfect entry. Thank you so much, Cyrus.
Vani, listen, we've been talking offline so much. We had it in Insta. I think I was in Alibag, and about 2 minutes of it came on air, and 45 minutes was wasted thanks to the Wi-Fi falling and dropping. But that's fine. But there are many interesting facts. First and foremost, you're an author, and let me just give a little intro to you, which I found fascinating. Is you're born in Libya? How did that
Yes.
happen? And were you a
How
member of any
my parents,
either
my
peacekeeping
parents,
force, secessionist group?
no, my father was in Libya for a while. He was employed by the government of Libya, and
Like
he
Gaddafi
is
himself?
a by no, but he was employed by the government.
Was he close to good old Muammar? That's the next book. My times. By
Oh,
the way, Muammar Gaddafi used to have female bodyguards, good
yes, of
looking.
course.
Yeah,
Very good looking ones, yeah. And
yeah.
yeah, he used to have, yeah, so army training was compulsory for women there. That's what I
Oh,
have, what they tell me. And he was posted there, like he was working as a chemist in the hospitals over there, and he was there for about 11 years. So my brother and I both were born in Libya, and that's where our life started. But then, subsequently, my parents also moved to Chandigarh because obviously, they didn't want, there was not much scope for English education or the sort of education
oh.
Asian parents look for their kids. And so we all moved to Chandigarh, which is known for its educational institutions, and that's how my life
And the
started.
various sectors of Chandigarh, which is always confusing.
Yes,
I tried to chase a girl in Chandigarh when I was very young, and I couldn't find anything because although it was too organized for the Mumbaikar, you see, we're not used to
you
organize. We only used chaos. Everything was sector one, sector two, sector 24, sector. Couldn't do it. Got lost the girl. Still
I'm
haven't found her.
wondering if you've been here like a couple of years ago, I'm sure you would have found the city pretty laid back for your taste because that's what most of my friends from Mumbai
I've
tell me. It's too
I've
laid
gone to
back.
Chandigarh many
Very,
times. Namely, at least on my 3 or 4 guest appearances on roadies and various events, shows, I've been to Chandigarh lots of times. Hello. The best part of Chandigarh is you used to have an afternoon flight. The flight was like at 12:31. I don't know now what it's like. The last 3 years I haven't gone, but the timing to go and come was always like 12:31 in the afternoon, which everybody loved. No more red eye flights. Going to Chandigarh was a joy.
but then we
But
don't have much of a I mean, a couple of years ago there was no nightlife, so I'm sure you must have found the town like our city pretty sleepy and
Vani,
all
I go to
that.
sleep at 7 o'clock in the evening. What nightlife? I'm against nightlife. If
And
I was a
yeah,
governor,
and you get up at 4. Are you
yeah,
Baba Ram?
I am. Can't you tell? No, it's true. It's all true. But you're right. I don't know. I'm sure Chandigarh is rocking in its own way. This is we'll find out about that in another show. Right now, we have lots to talk about this book. First and foremost, let me explain. This is not your first book, Vani.
No, this is not my first book.
Right. But is this your first foray into whodunits, or not a whodunit? It's more like, how do you describe it?
Crime. Yes,
Yeah, it's
crime.
crime. But I must,
So it's not who done it. I have so crime offers you a lot of scope to bend and twist the rules, basically. So I did all of that. So I wouldn't call it who done it, but I would call it why done it, because
yeah.
it starts from the very start. You know what's happened, and then
Also,
each character goes into that thing that why did
yeah.
this happen to me?
I want to ask you about that style also. Okay, for people, I don't. We were this is a very difficult thing to do because this kind of book you can't expose too much about it. In the sense that there's a plot, a proper plot here. Unlike some other books where a person just goes and climbs a mountain and tells us about his experiences, they're great books. What I mean is there's no suspense in the sense that we're cheating the audience. You have to be careful of that. So without giving away the ending, which is important because there is a bit of a here and there, although the end is the beginning, you have this style where the person, let's say there are many protagonists, although obviously Nikki is the main one. There are many protagonists and each one has their voice. So you've adopted this style where, well, I got confused first because being an idiot, I was a little worried because I thought speaking in first person was the protagonist, then somebody else, and then I realized that that's the you headline the each chapter with the person who's presenting it from their perspective. Took me so long to explain a simple point, but you know what I mean.
No, no. I'm glad that you've seen that, because that's deliberate. See, whenever so you ask the question first, I just tend to, but I I not even let you complete the question.
No, no, no. My point is, I like that idea of doing that because then initially I was like taken aback, like what's going on, but then it actually simplified in my head the sequence every time. Because if Mr. Daruwala's character is talking, for example, then you're seeing it from his perspective, which is not normal when you go up and down in a book. Then you go into Nikki's perspective and Samir's perspective. Then you go into whoever else there is. So everybody's
Ali,
Ali. Well,
yeah.
Ali, I don't want to give it away.
So
So
so now I'll answer. I got your point. So what happens is whenever there's a crime that happens, so this is essentially it has a lot of it is heavy on crime, or as heavy as a person like me could make it. Well, I'd call it soft crime. Let's call it that. But whenever a crime happens, and whenever you're writing about crime, um, crime can be looked at from multiple perspectives. So you could have the maid's point of view, you could have the protagonist's point of view, and the antagonist's point of view, and the police wala's point of view. So I just didn't want the story to roll out from the main character's point of view, and I wanted to give it that 360-degree angle where the reader understands where is each character coming from, what's going on in his head when he's saying certain things, and so it gives more depth to your story.
also, can I say something else? Is my observation is that
You
now
just don't give out the spoilers
I'm not,
as
that's what
long
I'm
as
being very careful. I'm being very careful. But my observation is that what happens is, as a reader, you are on the side of the protagonist in any conventional book or novel or whatever, and you're with that person and character throughout, right? And you start worrying, even in a movie, you start worrying for them as you get, into the whole thing. Here, what you've done is you've taken me almost like a freelancer as a reader, and I go now to Cyrus Daruwala, or I go to Nikki, or I go to Samir, or I go to Ali, or whoever I go to, and I become, in a sense, I won't say empathy, but more sympathizing with that person happens because then that is the protagonist. Their perspective is coming through. So it's almost like there's no central figure throughout, even though Nikki is, and that each person's voice is like a center. I like that style a lot. I thought it begins like it's complicated, but it actually makes it very easy because you're seeing it from everybody's perspective. So I'm able
and
to.
also empathizing with them. None of them is a so what it allowed me to do was essentially that every one of us has a dark side and a bright side, and normally what we showcase, and especially for celebrities like yourself or anybody, we tend to showcase our good side, our bright side, our cheerful side, but everybody has a denser side to themselves where you have anger and resentment and guilt and shame and you vie for things that you can't have, and you covet things, other people, other women, men, you stalk people. So I wanted to show all those shades, and I wanted to create empathy, because that's how you make a character more relatable, right?
Yeah. No, I love that because what's happening is we become less judgmental. Otherwise, it's very clear. X is good and B is bad or whatever. It's not like that. By the end of it, it's a jumble. And that's why I don't give the ending, because you're literally a couple of the characters, I won't call them weaker, but the ones you're less inclined to go for, in the end, they've also made a mark with you because you become part of them in their chapter when their voice is talking, which happens also. So I think that's a
Actually,
really good.
to be, to be very honest with you, and without giving out a spoiler, I wrote this ending twice. So the first ending was something that people could have predicted, but then thankfully my book got rejected. So it's been through its own share
It's
of
like Sholay.
rejections and all.
It's like Sholay. They made the first ending and then they got rejected. They made the second ending and became the biggest hit ever.
Yes,
Wow.
and then I rewrote the ending and I did some more research and I created more empathy for my characters. And somehow the ending that naturally came to me was the one that you have now. So I said, okay,
Okay.
fair enough.
Okay. We're not going to the ending because by mistake we'll let out, I will definitely let out things. So I don't want to get into the ending. I'll just do the premise setup of the book because the tense is also fluid in a sense. It goes up and down. Nikki is a VJ in a very big VJ sort of world of the 90s. And of course, the elephant in the room is the character Cyrus Daruwala, who I didn't realize was such a big character because when you first called me up and said you've written a character based vaguely on me, oh, by the way, I was telling my wife about this character, including the sex scene and all that. And she was like, "You must have based it on Cyrus Saukar. It doesn't make sense." So already you losing your readership by putting the wrong guy in the book, the wrong real guy. I'm saying. Uh, we'll come to that in a second. I just wanted to quickly point out the thing. So or maybe you could without giving it away.
No, no,
So
no, you go ahead. Yeah. It's better
she's
I
basically
hear it from the reader, from the one who has read the book.
no, because I thought calling it a who done it, why done it, or whatever really happened done it, because that's what it is very simplifying the whole subject. It's not that. It's very interestingly written from the perspective of a young girl coming to this world and exploring it, and there's love involved and romance and trying to keep her parents happy and make a way. And I totally look. Coming from very strong women around me, the whole. I remember one scene where she's asserting herself with Cyrus Daruwala, the whole thing about you don't try to prop me up and protect me and all that, which many men don't seem to understand. But the moment you meet a variety of women with different personalities, you understand that you can't just push yourself onto a woman and say, I will defend you. It's almost making them a non entity. You don't have to defend anyone. The whole sense of equality has gone out of the window. That was a beautifully written chapter, I thought. And I totally understood that. And now I'll come to my character because you've created the world of the 90s, 2000 VJ type people. You've glorified us, given us more power and respect than we ever had. And I must congratulate you. If you really, by the way, folks, the character Cyrus Daruwala, she didn't use my surname. I don't know why not, because Daruwala is not the best surname to use.
I
But
should
she
have,
says,
but
she
I just, because I spoke to you just before I started writing this novel, and I was like, when I wrote this character, I had you in my mind all the time. So it was like, oh my God, this is how he would react. This is how he would talk.
I know you've made me, it's like a plastic surgeon. You've taken me and made me much better. You made him 6 foot tall, I'm 5'8". You give him a Harley Davidson, I have a cycle. You say women love him and, good looking and all that. The only woman who loves me is my mom, and that too, not on every single day of the year. So yeah, and he seems to be the guy who had the world at his feet when the story begins or when Nikki enters his life.
How authentic is the description of the Parsi community? Is it like
Very good. I
stereotype?
like that a lot. You put little Gujarati in. You made them. How do you, without being too stereotyped? The definitely Parsi families tend to have strong opinions, strong with theatrical, dramatic personalities are there. That's not a stereotype to say. So that is there. Growing up with Parsis, you'll know that they tend quite a few of them will be larger than life. That's for sure. So that sense is created from the father and the mother later on. Bero's father, Kurshid. See, I've done good. I read it now. It's all in my head like an exam. Tomorrow, if you ask me, I'll forget everything. But yeah, coming back to, so just set up for people listening. So the book is called Seconds Later, and the main character is Nikki, and she enters this world. It'll be like a tennis match. You do it, I do it. Okay, we'll compete. Uh,
Seconds later.
and always remember, our main audience is audio, so they have no idea what we're doing or what we're talking about when we're playing our book games of showing the book. Uh, so it's better to say seconds later. Buy it now. Um,
Seconds later.
buy it in seconds. Yeah, exactly. So no, so yeah, so the character, and I didn't realize he was such a prominent role. I mean, he's very
Yeah.
much the like a now. Of course, the four, five of them are protagonists, but I mean, and also you page 66 and page 106 are marked as the sex scenes. This is for the perverts amongst us who are listening to this program. 66 has a man with a how do I say politically correct words? An unreal, a prosthetic. Can you explain that? I
Well,
don't want to get crucified about
I can
this. Huh.
tell you to see, the thing is that it wasn't easy for me also as a writer to write something about something which has been overwritten about. But
What?
when you
Sex?
sex, in the sense, you have so many books, they have
You
such
can
explicit.
never override sex. No, everybody's listening to the program now because we're saying the word sex all the time. Let me tell you, that's how we sell the podcast. I call people
That's
who are botanists, and we just mention sex for no reason, so that people continue listening. So now we actually have a reason. So if you're listening, we're going to go into sex. Huh. Go on.
So for me, when I was writing that particular scene, I wanted to make it look very graceful because so many times, you might overdo it or you might do it in a way where it doesn't even come across as anything too decent. Yeah,
Well,
please.
66 caught me off guard. 106, which is a more like a romantic sex scene played out between Cyrus and Nikki. Ouch, awkward. That didn't catch me off guard because it's a proper build up and it was waiting to happen. And there were a few pre sex scene moments throughout the book. But this one caught me off guard. And no, I'm talking about the. This is very graphic and very sexual. And if you're a bit of a perv, then you'll really enjoy this. I'll just read out one paragraph. What are you craving today? She asked me, removing my shirt and tossing it on the carpet. Then she removes my jeans and bends down to examine my prosthesis. Oh, she says, does it still hurt? This thing? Vani, Vani. People are going online and buying it right now. Yeah.
I'm glad that is happening, because that's the ultimate thing that any
Can
writer
I?
wishes for.
Yes, the ultimate compliment I always believe, just with comedians and all that, is do people laugh? Then you're a comedian. You can't talk about how good the comedy was. That's a waste of everybody's time, honestly. It very
Yeah.
often isn't in any case. But they laugh, you're successful. The book, if you read it and I read it in 2 hours. You can't do that normally. A lot of books are difficult for us to read these days. It's very racy, it's very fast. And I'm not saying because of the sex scenes, but
It's
things happen
fast paced,
non-stop.
right?
It's
So
very
it's
fast
fast
paced.
paced.
It's very fast paced. There's no hold up. It's an easy read, quick and fast for me. It's not like, oh God, what's coming now? There's no hold up. Things happen all the time, and you keep cross cutting between the characters, which is very interesting because it's almost like a fresh movie now or fresh book coming in because now I'm getting his perspective. The whole thing has changed. Even I don't want to give it away, but say one character who's clearly negative, even he is almost humanized. You get a little confused. You're talking about his wife and this and that. And for a minute, I'm almost empathizing with him and thinking, oh God, okay, all right, this you
But
won't understand unless you read it, huh?
you do understand where he's coming from. So for me, it was very so initially in the first draft of the book, before the rejection happened,
Funny,
that
he's he's
character
he,
wasn't even
he's a complete
there.
womanizer. What do you mean? Where is he coming from? But that I mean, I mean, his list of
These people
sorry.
are real. These people are real people. They are all around us. So for us,
Yeah,
it's very important to understand that they also have families. They also have mothers. They were
but
not.
that's the
They just
scary part.
didn't.
That's what I'm saying. You humanized him to such a degree
Yeah,
in one chapter where he's reflecting, and it's all fresh in my head, he's reflecting for a second. You're almost, it's like with what's his name, Kasab, the evil monster, trying
yeah.
to mention when he was in Yerawada lockup, saying things like, I love Amitabh Bachchan films and all that, and I love biryani, and people writing about it and trying to humanize him. I mean, you slaughtered children and all that. End of the day, why are we humanizing him? So I'm just saying, not a good comparison. That's a real monster. There's also a little monster. But for a minute, but I'm saying that's good because what you did is for a second you forget, you see him from the point of view of a normal person, and you sort of understand because vaguely his complaints are normal when he's talking about his wife and things like that initially, and then they become worse, and then you see what is using his powerful position to prey on the ladies and whatever. Let's not get into the moral judgment over that. You read the book, please. I'm not giving away any more things, but like I said, it's very racy, it's very saucy and at a point. So you've got that. It's filled with action, and it's also an inter community relationship, for God's sake, which I don't know. We'll have to be careful in these days and age of political correctness.
So for me, I think the writing it from multiple points of view also allowed me to explore values that each character, each one of us has, and it really depends on our upbringing, the country we are coming from, the sort of educational atmosphere and all you've been brought up in. So for Sameer, it's different. It's absolutely different. For Cyrus, it's absolutely different. For Nikki, who's coming from a very conservative family in Bhubaneswar, it's very
Although her
different.
dad is, I want to ask you about this whole Oriya touch that is there. Um, so how did that happen? Because you're not yourself Oriya. So
Yeah, I am from Chandigarh. So for that matter, the story takes place in Mumbai, and all those locations I've never been to. I've just been to
what?
Mumbai twice in
तेरा
my
भी
life.
married नहीं गया?
I have no idea about Barfi Wala flyover or Jogeshwari and half of
What did
those
you build?
places. Yeah, I see. Whenever, see, the point was to get out of my comfort zone. If I base a story in Chandigarh, then I'm not really working very hard because this is what I know. But I wanted these characters. So for one thing, the Parsi character, when because you have a tendency to disappear. So I message you three times, and the fourth time you'll reply. So you disappeared, and along the way I met Jahangir Karkaria, who's an actor who's acted in many movies, and he helped me sort of refine the Parsi characters and not stereotype them and not give them like that swear words and all, dikra dikra and overdose of that.
There's one
So
dikra.
there's one dikra, only one dikra.
Spelled in English with a double E to emphasize on
Yes.
the accent. Dikra.
Yes, and O Khudaiji also comes in once. That's it. But
Yeah, I
otherwise,
think so.
I wanted to write these beautiful because like I am not really, Chandigarh mein aapko Parsi, you don't really see a lot of Parsis here. We only see them on TV. So for me, researching all that, and uh,
I don't know if that
researching.
sounded right or wrong to say, but yeah, it's funny. Yeah,
Yeah, and then it's like researching on Google Maps where all I'm going to base the story, how much this distance is going to work out like, and I don't own
there is
nobody in
one
my.
there is one moment where you discuss distance, because this is a bugbear with me in Mumbai. Lokanwala to Jogeshwari, or rather Jogeshwari to Lokanwala, and there's a
Yeah,
little commentary on that.
Google Maps. Google
Yeah,
Maps helped me.
obviously now you're telling me that, but as a Mumbaiker, see, these are things we relate to. So even in the middle of the story, when you cut to that, we totally empathize with that, because any Mumbaiker who lives here will tell you traveling, whether it's train, bus, rickshaw, private transport, or fake metros or whatever, we all empathize with the issue of talking about traveling, the various ways
Yeah.
of traveling, etc., and trying to come on time. So that
But
this
but
one say,
I want you to also say something if you were able to relate to the aspect of fame, because that's what I was trying to like fame, because
that's
everybody
tough.
wants to be famous. Everybody wants to be famous,
Yeah.
and I wanted to share with everybody once again the incidents that you talked about being kissed on the lips, or
Yeah.
please tell us something.
Yeah, all that. So I think you've given me too much fame. I've had moments here and there in my career, I won't deny that, where people treat you really nicely, or with a group of people or a college or whatever, and they scream your name, and it really feels great when you do those things. But then, like I think I told you the last time, when I was in the presence, say, of Rajnikant in Chennai airport, or Dharminder in Delhi airport once, and you saw the people just MS Dhoni in Mumbai airport, just the whole sea of people run. Then you know what real fame is. The airport empties to one side, because that's real fame. So our fame, I would say, but I like our fame because people call me by my name. They just talk to me on the road and all, which they won't do with a Salman Khan. They'll be in awe of him. Here they treat us like a regular Joe. So we have our own. I think television fame is a little different from feature film fame and superstar sports fame. But no, I think that was great. But I
Is
think
it
my
no?
character,
But is it
I can't.
is it
Yeah.
easy to handle? Because this novel is also about that it is not easy to handle fame. And Nikki has been dreaming about it. She's actually she's not in contact with her parents because they are not very supportive of her career. But the point of this is that she thinks it is easy, and then how it turns out to be. So how has been your experience? And did
I
you
wish
have any like
I wish I
memories
was
that
more.
came up
Vani, I wish I was more famous so I can answer that authentically. It's not fair. Can I get back to you in 2 years? Let me do something with my life. But
when you
no,
get Padma Shri? Are you getting Padma Shri?
I want it. I will fight for it, and one day they will give it to me out of sheer like just to get me off their backs. Uska phone वापस आ गया दे दो साला. That's it. I'll get it. But and that's a good way to get it anyway. But coming back to my character and the fame of his, the way he was handling it, there's a moment I think in the towards the beginning part where they do a selfie when he's just sort of romancing her also, and they're just working together for the first time, and somebody comes at the airport, right in the airport scene, and says whatever, and Cyrus's character, Cyrus Daru was a bit gruff with him, but then actually allows the selfie. So I thought, thank God, because I'm very good with public. I would never fight with them for nothing. I'm very with public who come to me, but I've had lots of embarrassing moments which I wish I had told you, which are similar to this airport story. Like for example, I have 2 3 areas where I get angry fast, like with dogs. If somebody disrespects my dogs or other dogs, I start bristling and looking for a fight immediately. So for example, at the Oval Maidan a couple of years back, there was this private game of cricket going on, and as my dog passed, this one guy did this whole super acting, like that. So I went after him and said, "अगर ये Perth wicket पे क्या खेलेगा तू? Where the ball is bouncing and you can't handle a dog." I started all that derogatory comments to him. So after 1 second, he let me finish. I gave him a rant. I was like, "Perth wicket में क्या करेगा तू? ये छोटा कुत्ता से डरता है तो क्या करेगा bowler के सामने, Australian bowler के सामने, Perth wicket पे?" Like that kind of dialogue. And he looks at me for a second. He says, "Hey Cyrus, can we take selfie?" So Vani, I went from this aggressive rant to yeah, cool man, what's up? Yeah, and my daughter, she said, "Dad, you're such a hypocrite." She had that look on her face of lack of respect, which has not come back. And I just switched. I went from angry about "don't you dare disrespect dogs" to
This
"oh
is
yeah,
very
I'm
close to
Cyrus,
the
everybody's
scene.
friend." Huh?
This is very close to the scene that I have
It
in the
is
book,
close. It is close. But he switches. But my switch was terrible. I felt really hollow. I felt like those politicians who they abuse each other. Then one of them dies across parties, and then they all say, "He great, a mahan aadmi tha. Kya kiya samaj ke liye? He was the greatest." 2 days back they were saying "maa behan galis" to each other. I mean, I felt like that. It was literally like that. So those are the moments you understand fame is all rubbish.
No,
Firstly,
I think even my character Cyrus that I've written, he has a short fuse. But he knows when he's losing it out, and he knows, he wants to shout and scream, but he understands that, he can't do that. Otherwise, probably he'll be in the lockup or on the front page of Times of India,
which
and
sort of happens to let's not give it away. But towards the end, then the bad press and all that happens that follows him for whatever reasons. Please read the book so you can see that. I remember we had one incident where I got into a very bad fight in a five-star hotel. We got beaten up quite badly, me and Kunal, but I don't know by some sailors and all that, lots of people. And we were in the lockup, and then the Bombay Times editor Ayaz called up my wife. Actually, I was too drunk. And said, "What is he doing? I'll kill the story, but what is wrong with him? Why was he in this fight and whatever?" So and I just remember that when I woke up and I sobered up, we had a clause in MTV that they can terminate your contract for the words to effect that behavior that's not becoming of a person in public, etc. Which is very much drinking and fighting. I mean, that would be top of the list. What else is there? Sexual bad behavior and fighting. So
yeah.
yeah. So no, there's lots of insights. They're all very good. I think he's a nicer guy than I am. He's also a little bit more mature. I thought he handled Nikki's character very well for the most part. There's just a couple of
Yeah,
moments when he's obviously
I,
being a
I think
MCP-ish.
that wasn't easy to write, because what happens is, I wanted to show him as this steadfast, that he's not like, okay, he's in love one day and he's falling out of love the other day. I wanted to show that thing that, he has that love for her, and he desperately wants to protect her, but then he also realizes that there is a generation gap, like 10 years. There's like,
Can I interrupt you? There's another point
yeah,
I noticed, which is bang on spot on with my life, so art imitating life, and that is he tends to land up apologizing to her a lot. There are a few moments in the book where he does. So with me and girls, or me and my wife now, or even my daughter, or my mom for that matter, all my female relationships, lots of sorry. In fact, in my stand-up, the first that I ever wrote, I did this whole routine based on real life, which is you need sorry, please, and thank you. 3 words for a relationship. Without that, you can't do anything. Just remember the
yeah,
order. You can't say sorry for please, please for sorry, and thank you for sorry. You've got to say the right thing at the right time. So yeah, and that he does a lot of. So that's what I like. He's a very well-rounded figure, better than I am.
And what was most interesting for me was to give him flaws as well. It's just not that, because he's the main hero, he cannot have as many flaws as the anti-hero has. So he also has to have flaws, and he understands he's possessive. He has a short fuse. He tends to be overprotective, and he sort of encroaches in your private space and tries to take it up and unnecessarily, trying to control you. So he has his own flaws and his own demons to deal with.
He's also, I don't know if you consciously done it, he's a bit of a public person in the sense that his relationship is public. People in the office are involved, all that, while maybe she's a slightly more private person, which is another thing with me and say my wife, okay, because mine is like a little bit more open and that she doesn't always enjoy. And she, on the other hand, likes everything to be quiet and private and dignified. And that sometimes, maybe that comes with the territory. I don't know sometimes, because, or you're just not sensitive enough. But I think there are bits where you've got to mail properly. Males we don't realize when we are being chauvinistic, because we are thinking we are being very unchauvinistic, and when we are being protective, that we are being very loving, and that we are, so our ego really takes a beating when a woman is ticked off with the fact that you're actually suffocating her in your ability to try to love her. You're suffocating her. So that distinction, that one bit is there, very very nice bit where she stands up for herself. I have had those bits many times in my life, so much so that now I'm
So
basically
especially
living
with
alone.
your must have
Huh.
been with your daughter, because girls these days, they don't like all that thing, where you are like suffocating them with your love, and they're like, no, 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 no,
See, I
that
think the
doesn't
difference is
work.
the daughter and the girls you were trying to date. Okay, that sounds creepy. But the girls you're trying to date, there's a lot of pressure and pretense because you're trying to put out someone. So there's a lot of pretend in a male's performance initially. With your daughter, what happens is you want to make sure you don't muck up. Okay, so you be very careful. You learn very quickly because she's straightforward. Most daughters are straightforward. They know their fathers are bending over backwards for them anyway. So you have the most powerful father in the world, Ronnie Coleman, 8-time Mr. Olympia. He would come home, 300-pound man filled with muscle, but his daughter would then say, I want this, and he'd be on all fours and playing doggy doggy or whatever. So that's the beauty of the daughter father dynamic. And of course, you've not explored that. That's for part two. But this is done. But anyway, I'm
I
just
have, I have. You must have
between,
seen that the parents' dynamic is different for each character,
yeah,
whether it
yeah.
be Samir, whether it be Cyrus Daruwala, whether it be,
Kaushal and
yeah,
Cyrus is very close to my family. Huh? The mother is, she's sort of blunt, but in the deep, you can see that she's very Indian mother. The pride. The lion is the pride of the family and all that. But on the surface, a lot of blunt, funny remarks, off the cuff remarks, similar to mine. So that was good. But here's the big question: why did you base the character on someone like me? I'm an idiot. This guy's a little bit more sophisticated, I would think,
So
version of me.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is very interesting. So I don't know why the impulse to write a Parsi character, or where it came from. I don't know, because the first voice that I started hearing in my mind was that of Samir. I could hear him speaking, like, as a writer, you mostly live in your head. That's number one. And second, you can hear all your characters speaking with each other all the time. There's a dialogue going on, and you can't pretty much explain it to anybody else. Yeah, sorry,
So I'm
you're
just
saying something.
clarifying for people listening. If you have voices in your head, remember you're not necessarily mad. You're just a writer. So some people start worrying that the people talking and will you stop talking? I can't hear the other person. But it's just being a writer.
Absolutely.
That's what you're
And
saying. Yeah.
after Samir, and coincidentally, I was just back from Bhubaneswar. I visited there. I was invited by Dr. Achyut Samanta, who has this Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences. So I
You've given
went
him
there.
a credit right in the beginning. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I have. So I loved Bhubaneswar, and I said, okay, fair enough. I'm going to base my story here, but I didn't know what part of it or how much of it I'm going to base it in Bhubaneswar. So it's just bits. It's just a
So
tiny bit.
So now I'm
That's it.
understanding. Tell me if I'm right. What you basically done is you get out of your comfort zone as a writer. I don't want to write about Chandigarh. I don't want to write about my background, Libya, whatever. I want to write about what I don't know. And so you do a
Yes,
little bit of research. You try to find out a little bit, and then you push yourself there. So Bhubaneswar becomes the
not
roots of
only
the.
I think somewhere along, because you've written a lot of books, you would understand that you don't consciously plan these things. You get into that flow and it just starts flowing. So the first, I think, maybe 15, 20 pages were like really easy for me because they just came like that. Now, the problem was to make it very authentic because one, I don't play football, for instance, and Sunny
Ajay,
is
so
a
you write in
football.
features a lot. And Liverpool
Yeah,
features once, our favorite club. Huh.
absolutely. So in the first draft, there was Wayne Rooney and God knows what all was there. So and
Which means you
writing.
wrote it a few years ago because Wayne Rooney is dead and gone now. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I started writing it in 2017. But
Ronaldo
after
stays. Ronaldo reference is there,
Yes, yes, yes.
but
He
it's a
is
it's a
like,
physical reference space. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So just to give an idea as to what sort of, how this guy looks and all that. So for me, the Parsi character came in, but why base it on you was because I think somewhere along, you had such an effect on us when we used to see you, on TV. Cyrus, you were everything that
Vani, wait,
we
they have to
were.
make my clothes. They have to light me up nicely now. Rishi, light me up and make my clothes. Sorry, carry on.
So you represented for us. I mean, I'm talking about my growing up years, and we are almost, I don't know, we are the same age or not. I really don't want to go to that
I'm as
that
old as
side.
Bangladesh, the country Bangladesh, and I look approximately the same. With due respect to Bangladesh, love the country. Yeah,
No, I'm a few years, yeah,
there you go.
So,
Yeah.
so for us, when we would see you on TV, and we would see Malaika, and we would see Maria. For us, you were like, oh my God, you guys were everything that we couldn't even dream of. So for us, it was like, oh my God, this guy is so handsome and he talks so nicely and he dresses up so nicely. How much does he get paid?
Nice question.
So for me, I think that teenage fascination I had, I just poured it into this book completely. And I
Well,
just, मेरे पूरे
no,
teenage में, it's all my
please
teenage
don't
fantasy.
explain yourself. I think you've written completely from the heart, and there's streams of consciousness for sure involved, as you've mentioned, which is always the best way to write or perform, I believe. Anyone can sit down and use references. And there are certain writers I work with who do that all the time, and all they do is re-Google stuff. But this is very interesting. Also, we had two Cyruses in MTV. We had three actually, because our head of programming, one of our big creative minds, was Cyrus Oshilar. So it's a fair name to have in that small world of MTV VJs, or rather
No, but
VGs.
I
Yeah.
was always, I mean, I don't know about other Cyruses, but I was personally, always fascinated with you. And for me, that time around, if somebody would have told me you would be interviewing me and talking to me about my book, it would have been like, are you talking like really crazy with me? What's wrong with you? I couldn't have, like, this
Wow.
is not
This
even
is one
my
of my
wildest
happiest,
dream.
Vani, this is one of my happiest moments because now I can actually say to Cyrus Saukar and Cyrus Oshidar, F off. Trying to say that for so many years.
So, another thing that was really difficult for me to write was the swear words
It comes only
because
towards
I
the
don't.
end,
Yes.
where she's abusing FF, then 4-5 in a row. No, I pick up
Yes.
all this very fast, my petty mind. Yeah.
So the thing was that I don't swear in my normal life. I never use swear words. I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I don't interact with a lot of people. I'm not a party person at all. So for me, those bits were like, oh, how am I going to
Also,
put them down?
Also, the swear word she's using is under pressure, if I remember the scene correctly. So when you're under pressure, sometimes words come out. The meanings have nothing to do with the sexual connotation or anything. It's just words of despair which come out in whatever language you're speaking. They come out like that. So I think in that sense you can't even fault. I mean, anyone could say not you're not even conscious to it sometimes. If you're stuck in a rut or something is happening, you're not conscious to that words coming out. In that sense, it's different from swear words to abuse someone or insult someone and all that, which is
Also,
what
because
MTV taught us.
if you're writing crime fiction, especially something like this, people do tend to populate the whole thing with a
Yeah.
lot of swear words and a lot
Yeah.
of gore and a lot of. So I was like, okay, whatever
It's
I do, even there is the scene of molestation. There is
yeah.
she's yeah, so even that,
Don't give it
I was
away. But it's quite
it's
graphic for the perverts who want to watch. Huh? Read. Go on.
it's it's like it's very sensitively dealt with because I'm a woman and I know that when somebody is reading it, you have all those things stirring up inside you, and it's not very, it's very gross to even read
But
it or to
in one
get.
of those scenes, she kicks him in the not mentionable regions, which has a
That's
male
because
who's
the
been hit.
maid had. That's because the maid had. She remembered what the maid had told her, the tips that she had from the maid.
Oh my God, is that a true story?
No,
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 of
not the
course.
second part. The first part, the maid having told you that this is how to deal with them.
No, no, no,
Oh
nothing.
God.
This did not happen.
Oh,
This
so
is
this is a
all
social
real and
perspective of
nothing.
lower class India and how women have to get away from evil monsters. Okay, that's not what it
Well,
is.
yeah, nothing. Not so. Even as the story is all fiction, the triggers were very real. Because when my first book came out, so what happened was I started getting proposals on Instagram and Facebook. I would get tagged in obscene posts and all, and it was so new for me. It was like, okay, how do everybody wants to be your friend, people are reaching out to you with packages like, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you. So it was all unfamiliar territory. And plus, there is no guidebook to guide you through that process, like how are you should be managing your life and all that. So for me, these triggers were so real that, I wanted to put them down, that, maybe you would have felt that because in the 90s, you really didn't have anybody to, but then you started off like really early as a child, right? You were a
Yeah,
child
well,
artist.
in the business, so to speak. But no, I know what you're saying. There was no Me Too movement and all that. It was a whole different world. And but I think I'll say this much, and I hope the girls in MTV, if they ever listen to this, don't get upset. But I don't think we had too much of that going on in our immediate industry. Okay, because they were basically, how to say this without sounding elitist, they were well-heeled girls, well-educated girls, and it was difficult to put anything above them. Sometimes, it's also the target that's targeted by these predators who are there amongst us. So I don't think there was too much
Hmm.
of that around us. Um, but I don't know. You never know because people come up with stories of 1953 and all that. Someone's held a grudge for 81 years, and this guy was a predator. He's now on life support, but let's kill him. It's like that, which is debatable. Vani, we've talked too much. We have to take a quick break and bring Silvery in. You were speaking of obscene things on Insta and all. He is one such thing. Silvery is Antariksh, our producer. He'll come in as we take this break. There you go.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Storytellers and Storysellers, Vinny talks to Prem Misri. Prem is the director and producer of the MX Player original web series Campus Diaries. On Shunya One, Shiladitya and I speak to Shashank Mehta. He's the founder and CEO at The Whole Truth Foods about various trades in the D2C food industry. Keep an eye on that series. We're going to be talking to a number of different entrepreneurs from the D2C space. On IVM Likes, our producers compare their experience studying across the various curriculums of ICSE, CBSE, and SSE boards. On Say No to Drama, Chetna tells us how not to be disappointed when things don't go your way, and the importance of surrendering. And on the Life Manifesto, Zarina introduces us to the Wu-Wei philosophy from ancient Chinese Taoism. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. And also remember, you can check out a lot of our stuff on YouTube. Go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube and you'll get a list of all the various channels that we do have. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and CoinSwitch Kuber. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Hello, hi.
Hey, Silvery,
Hi, Cyrus. Hi, Vani. How are you doing?
अंग्रेजी में है किताब अंग्रेजी में लिखा है but
Oh,
I'll
I'll have to
read it
learn
to you
English
slowly
first.
slowly.
Okay, fine. Okay,
हाँ
cool. Fine, fine.
हाँ.
Yeah.
But she's written
Go ahead, go ahead.
she's written in a very racy. I think it's you wouldn't be intimidated by the book. It's a fast, but it's an action book. It start to finish,
Yeah,
things are happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds very exciting. Oh,
Hmm.
Do you think there's a possibility of an adaptation after reading it?
Of course.
Cyrus.
But the only person is we'll have to get John Abraham to play the character because he's 6 foot and bike loving and all that. I mean, I think me, I'll be pushing the bike. It'll be a little different completely. Who would play the female? Who would play Nikki, your main character? Who would
You
you
tell me.
supposing? I don't know because it
I,
also depends because the age.
Alia,
If John is playing Cyrus Darubala, then you got to have someone 10 to yeah. So exactly, um,
Alia.
8-10 years younger. Alia, how old is Alia? How is that
15,
creepy to ask?
20,
Another like
27.
28 or something, I think. She's like
28,
27,
and John
28.
is about 48. That's a bit too much, no? But in India, it's allowed. 20
India
का
में
10 होता
हाँ, it's fine. Yeah,
20
yeah.
का 10 हिसाब है ना by law male
48-year-olds
male
play 30-year-olds all the time.
he's
I think it's
immediately
fine.
38. 48 becomes
Yeah,
38
yeah.
and she has to go
Exactly.
up by 3 because she's female, you know the law.
Yeah, yeah.
Straight away. Yeah, it's done. Done.
Yeah,
Any
true.
other person, Sylvie? Maybe we need a
Uh,
younger, like a lesser known female lead.
Amitabh Bachchan will play a 50-year-old if there is a 50-year-old in the thing.
He can ride a bike if you've seen Sholay. So
He
that's
can,
all
yeah,
good.
true. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Surely, yeah.
Yeah. And he's still sexy at 70 or whatever, 80 almost. Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Which is a far cry from. But yeah, we want a Parsi actor. So John is at least Parsi. You know? His mother's Parsi. Still out. There's so few roles available. You're taking it away from the one or two authentic guys who are there. Who else is? Jim Sarb is Parsi. Jim
Jim
Sarb.
Hmm.
Sarp. Yes,
Yeah, but
correct.
he's about 40 something, I think. How old is he? No idea. God,
I don't
it's
know.
like we're in the
He
middle of the
looks young,
production
but he has
meeting. Huh? We're in the middle of a production meeting now. Yeah. Or director, Vani, who will direct this magnum opus?
आप बताओ मैं तो
Raju Hirani.
I'm
No, but it's not a Raju Hirani film. It's
I
it's
know,
a
but
it's a different. I'm trying to think who is
but
the
even
right guy.
Three idiots, he changed the entire script, right? It's
So
not
where's the
really based
thriller
on
in
the
that?
book, really.
There's a twist and all, but this is a thriller.
Yeah.
In many ways, there's things happening under the surface throughout the book, and while she's exploring her journey in this television line, etc., and herself. So it has to be someone who's a little more not that he's insensitive, but I'm saying I can't think of who do you think,
Like, oh,
Vani?
someone who made Andhadhun? I think
I think yeah, absolutely, maybe because
Ayushman thingy.
yeah, the Ayushmann
I
Khurrana.
want
Wasn't it that Amir Khan's partner who fought with him? I'm very bad with names, yaar.
Sriram Raghavan is the director.
Sriram
Raghavan
Raghavan, yeah, and he's done lots of good work. Yeah, okay, done. Let's pencil in Sriram Raghavan. We've agreed.
Done.
We have
Sorted.
or maybe
John stroke Amitabh.
Shujit
Huh?
Sarkar.
Shujit Sarkar.
Shujit-
Yeah.
What?
Shujit
Shujit
Sarkar.
Sarkar, yeah. Okay, done.
He's done.
If you can pronounce his
Madras
name, we
Cafe,
get him. Otherwise, we go with the earlier choice.
Sriram
Sorry.
Raghavan.
Yeah.
Then, if you want to change the whole styling, then we get what's his name, Sanjay Leela Bhansali.
Yeah, correct.
Because this is a
If
very
you want
fast
a
paced. He's
blue
never done
filter,
any fast paced movie. Yeah. So I'm taking. Look at what I'm doing here, Vani. I'm taking your fast paced, very modern sort of setting book against a guy who basically likes that more medieval charm and slower pace and colors and all that. It's a good mix. And
Are
then
you going to make
and then he will
your
choose the hero. He will choose the hero. Yeah.
are you going to make your wife also read the book? Is she planning to read
She
the
wants
book?
to. She can't believe it. I've marked her page 66. Page 106 is my sex scene, by the way. Sylvia, I have my own sex scene.
wow.
It's page 106,
Okay, cool.
where Cyrus Daruwal romances the actual lead of the book, which is Nikki. And in a very tender way, as Raj Kapoor would have said, it's done justified in the film. Oh, justified hai isme.
Cool,
I
cool.
can explain this to the children who are watching the program. This is very justified. Completely.
Vani,
Yeah.
were you thinking of so you based one of the characters on Cyrus, but were there other options maybe that you were exploring as well? Or
Oh, me?
were there the other
After she
characters?
said such nice things.
No. Like, were there like other characters?
In the
that you
words
were
of
basing-
Premchand, please kindly FO. What the
I'm just
hell?
asking, like, how do you
Okay,
come
fair
to
enough,
Cyrus? Like,
fair
how do you
enough.
how do you come to okay? Oh, I want to base this on Cyrus.
Just,
Sylvia, you
like
grew up a little later. At that time, there was no choice. There was like 2-3 guys. Yeah.
No, I never thought about anybody else. I'm telling you because growing up, I saw his face on TV, and he was everything that my man could possibly look like or be like. He represented for us this new India, where people could wear this sort of stuff, and they could speak so fluently, and we were not doing all this. If our parents, I come from a very conservative family. My parents don't drink, smoke, and they are very disciplined, God fearing people. They never swear. I have never
They've been
heard
a good
swear.
bridegroom. 4:45 we wake up, 7 p.m. we sleep. I don't drink anymore. No, I don't smoke. I'm doing perfect. Thoda
I
Punjabi sikhao.
No, I come from a family like my father is a Punjabi, but my mother is from UP. So the thing is, I have never heard swearing in my house. It never happened. My brother doesn't do it. I don't do it
That's
ever.
odd for Punjabi. UP, yes, very Tamiz culture, but it's odd for
Yeah, for us it was, from the very childhood we were like we were pushed into studies. पढ़ोगे लिखोगे तो कुछ बन जाओगे. So we were like hardcore, like हर समय 12 hours, 10 hours. We are writing exam papers. Like mine used to be like I don't think anybody ever wrote this much as I wrote in my exam papers. I taught my university. I was a gold medalist in my
Ooh,
university. So
Wow.
it was
you
like
you're too
it was
high
like,
profile for our show. We only get
oh,
failures. What the hell?
so
Sylvie, check करके करो next time. Yeah.
imagine, poor parents, got a shock, when I told them that I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to use my MBA degree, not my MA economics degree, not my journalism degree, but I'm going to write books. They were like, what are you talking about? So for us, we grew up not listening to English songs, not listening to all the stuff that you used to play for us on MTV, not watching English movies because they would have scenes that would that would make us like feel like, okay, just run
Which
away from the room.
the movie
So
that we watched twice a year was Gandhi. What scenes are you talking about?
so, yeah, I mean, you do get the whole thing, So for us, what you guys were doing on MTV was like, wow, there's a world outside of this pond, and it's so beautiful. So that's
Actually,
my
Vani, now that you say all this, and I don't want to be bragful and boastful, but we used to get a lot of letters in Love Line from people like this, especially from North India, where they would say things like, really enjoy the program because you express yourselves the way we want to express ourselves, but we can't. Words to that effect. Lots of women and a few men would they write into Malaika and Sophie more than me and say, just like the fact that you're open and you don't realize how many people don't have anyone to talk to or can't have their voice heard or can't relate to people around them, and they are stuck like that
Yeah.
for a long time because young people are young people all over the world.
yeah, but
Um,
then but but then Cyrus, one of you does it. I mean, imagine you may not have ever thought that what you were doing was influencing a generation of people out there. So
I was
maybe
hoping
what
not.
you're reading, maybe you should tell that to your mom or your wife. They
They
would
don't
appreciate.
care, Vani. They are immune. They just don't care about anything I have to say. There's no sense of legacy and all. They laugh their head off. If I tell my wife that Vani thinks I've set a legacy in MTV, she'll leave the country laughing. She'll still be laughing on Tuesday of next week. There's no respect here.
And so I think, when we are going through all that, when we are putting our voice into something or our heart into something, we don't realize, how much power we
True.
are, how much we are empowering the next generation. So, you were like this top fantasy, not only for me. I think most of my friends, the moment I posted your picture last time on my Facebook, everybody was like, oh my God, he used to be my childhood crush and all that. I mean, don't mind the
Ah,
word
childhood
childhood.
crush.
Uh,
Silvery. It's more than one girl. It's more than one girl.
but they were
It's not
children,
that
Cyrus.
bad.
They were children.
They were, yeah. And now they're pensioners. The world is just so unfair.
So it's like so for me, I never thought about anybody else, and I don't know, maybe in my future books also I would dedicate them to Cyrus
I know you
Brocha.
so sweetly, Silvery. Please, people, when you read the book, read the intro. Generally, acknowledgements aren't read by people who get straight into the book. It's right on the first page, and on the last paragraph, she says, "I know nothing about the Parsi community. If it wasn't for Jahangir Karkaria, who she's spoken about, three of my main characters would have been a ginormous mess." And then, thanks is also due to Cyrus Brocha for helping me to understand the other side of fame. Ah,
Wow.
well,
Yeah,
that's
how he
other
was.
side of fame is lack of
How
fame, huh, Silvery? If you just can't do the maths. Sweetly done by our
Nice.
writer.
But what,
Very
what
cool.
what was amazing was, and this is something that I would like to share. When I started writing this book, you were the first person I talked to, and you were so forthcoming with your stories. So I was like, there must be so many people. I'm sure, people call you up all the time, and I have tried calling you up, and you've not taken my calls
Ah,
so many times. I think last week you were traveling to Hyderabad or somewhere, and I called
yeah.
you up to ask you about this show. And I was like, how could you just pour yourself into, like, whoever calls you up, Acha Cyrus, aap humko, tell us about your personal life, tell us about what happened to you, and you were so forthcoming with your stories that it was just a
Funny,
pleasure
you're
to
not
talk to you.
understanding. There's a whole lot of us out there who nobody wants to listen to. So if anybody stops to listen, we do talk. Please understand. Because people say, shut up, stop it, not now, yeah, later, that kind of thing. Sylvie will relate to me completely. So that's half the problem. And the second problem is you mentioned
Okay.
MTV and all that. I was thinking we should write down. Sylvie has this whole Panchgani. He went to a boarding school in Panchgani. A routine. You have to just go to these areas and your mind starts, the truth comes out. There's so much actually. If you sit and pencil it down so that you remember them in sequence, then and then you can put a whole stand up together. So my MTV stories, if I think about them just separately, but you of course were talking about with audience and all that, which is a separate thing. But the whole MTV, all the different things that happened, I need to pencil it down. We've had some awkward moments, I have to tell you, which are quite funny now when I look back. Really. But I'll give it to you for your second book. Well, not second, your next book in this sequence. I won't give it away what happens in the end, but we'll leave it open for now. Chalo, shall we start the AMAs?
Yes, please. Yep.
Yeah.
This first AMA question
Vani,
comes
now,
in
now we
from
do AMAs. Ask me anything questions for a few minutes. So it may not
Yeah.
be about your book, so don't worry. You just have to answer anyway. Huh.
Yep. So Vipul Saha, this is a question about writing books. Vipul Saha asks, "Hey Cyrus and dear guest, Cyrus, I recently found out that you've written 4 books, which is super impressive. My question is, what is the best
Yeah.
part of writing a book? Is it the process, the research, the ideating, or the release and reviews of the book?"
Yeah, I'm horrible at researching. I'm just a very lazy writer, but I love streams of consciousness. I like to write like I talk or like I perform. I like to with blood rushing. I get on and I do it, and So normally my mother used to know when I wrote anything because I write it with a pen. Because my right forearm will swell, and she would actually ask me, "Are you working out?" When I come out because my arm would have been swollen because I write fast like that, and no one can read anything. Yeah, I know it's very vulgar. So that's my thing, but I can't bear the research thing, which my good friend Kunal does. He goes online, then takes old
Yeah.
jokes and then recycles them, figures them out. That's a different. I suppose you should have everything when you're a writer, but those people who do that, they have a lot of patience. But that's why I like what Vani was saying about she gets out of a comfort zone and just writes, and the first 15-20 pages is just write on their own. So that I also write up to a point where everything is flowing, and if it stops flowing, I stop. When I was trying to write long form, short form is never a problem. I've mastered writing rubbish. I can write 3,000 words without a I mean, you just wake me up and say, write, and I'll do it. 2 to 3,000 words, boom, which make no sense. And then people very politely say, damn good, and they print it. It's like that. But yeah, so I'm a big fan of the streams of consciousness approach where you just allow yourself to spit it out, which I think people don't back themselves. There's a lack of confidence. You don't back your own thoughts, and you don't just, you always want to sort of censor them and be conscious about them. When you try to be conscious about them, you start creating what is a lower art form, I would think, at some point.
Yes.
Because it's so more,
Yes.
more like maths that's going on in your head, right, Vani? You're trying to figure
Yes.
out everything and piece it
When
together, and I
you,
must have a beginning and an end. I don't like that approach
yeah.
at all
When
because
you
I'm lazy
allow
also.
energy to flow through you, I think it's more genuine and it's more a higher form, as in of the art itself. Yeah, I
And
agree.
also, it's fun because we don't know exactly what we're writing up to a point. So when you read it back and see, you're like, you sort of enjoy it sometimes and maybe not sometimes. But whatever, everybody's different. Can't say. But I think Vani's style is more that, right, Vani? You're more the artist who just hits the comp or for me, it's
Well,
writing pad.
I
And
find it exciting. I find so it's an interesting question. And he says exciting or challenging. What does he exactly
He's-
ask? If I may
Uh,
ask you again.
he says, what is the best part of writing a book? That's what his question is.
Okay.
Now
So
we
no,
I
can
he's
take
think
asking
it
your
in
style. He's just
individuals.
asking your style.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about the process and the research and the
Yeah.
ideating. I think all of it is very exciting for me. It is a challenge because with every book, I try to get out of my comfort zone and explore something, explore a world or characters or something that I have no clue about. So it's a
Yeah.
challenge for me. But then, if I don't do it, so I'm trying to write books that I am not finding elsewhere, that maybe nobody else would look at or nobody else is going to write. So that's very exciting, but it's a challenge nonetheless. But more than that, once you have the whole thing there in front of you, you have a fair idea of where you are starting and where you are ending. I think it's very exciting to put it down and millions of times you have to go through that manuscript and then promoting it. It's a challenge, but it's very
Yeah.
exciting. Look, here I'm talking to you guys. I wouldn't have been doing this if I wouldn't have really written this book. So yeah,
Yeah, and I think
absolutely.
she's written in the 21st century vein where you've got to get to the point also. It's a little difficult.
Hmm.
Not that classic books are bad or something, but I honestly think if your reader's just going to give you a chance for a few seconds, and after that, you're looking at the next generation, they're not going to, that's it. So you hook them fast, clickbait them if you like, and not that's the approach, but that I think right. Am I right, Vani, to say this? You
Yes,
need to
absolutely.
write for the
Because
21st century, which is what
we
this book is.
we are
Dun, dun,
see
dun.
it's different because we are serving a generation which is like high on fast food. So we are trying to give them fast reads. And that's not to say that people can't write tomes. You could actually have a book like with 800 pages, and you have Game of Thrones and all those books, which are like really
Which no
seven
one read.
volumes. And they still sell. I mean, if you can do
Yeah.
that, well, why not? But then for me, I probably like fast reads, and that's why I'm creating that. And that's not to say, tomorrow I might come up with something which is 400,
Yeah,
500
also,
pages.
this
Who knows?
genre, the genre itself lends to the fact that there's action happening and thrill and chills happening also throughout while we're exploring her life and her story. So I think that also, maybe if you change the genre, it may be a little different. So we can't say. But what I like is that you don't know. If you don't know, then we don't know, which is great. The unpredictability is art. Yeah.
This is interesting because this is something from my journalism days, because I've worked as a business journalist as well for Times of India and Financial Express. So as a journalist, you always stay ahead of your readers. And that's what has helped me in my career as a novelist as well, because somewhere along, the reader knows everything, but still, as a writer, you've got to stay ahead of the reader at all points in time.
Silvery,
Yeah, wow.
before you start writing, stay ahead of the reader. And
Yeah,
in our case,
great
it's
point.
the
Yep.
reader because there's one guy reading. So you've got to be really careful.
Of the reader,
All right.
yes, correct.
Of the reader. Shall
But
we
in
take
our
one
case, it's
more?
a reader because
It's
stay
a
ahead of a
reader.
reader.
Oh, you can
Yeah.
say the reader with respect. Agar Buddha to hai to, you have to think about it all. Maybe the reader is
Okay.
better. Not the reader. The reader.
The reader,
Go on.
the one and only
Uh,
reader. Okay. All right. The next one comes in from Louis Thomas Olakengal. He's written it before also. He says his subject of the question is, who did it better, Kunal or Ajay? Okay. He says, hi guys. Cyrus blasted Kunal for being taken on a palki during his trip to Ajanta caves. I would like to know what he thinks about Ajay Devgan being taken up the hill in Sabrimala. Do you see this? Have you seen this, Cyrus?
But see, he doesn't. Kunal is my tribe, my family, my culture. He doesn't owe me anything. He's Ajay Devgan. He's a film star, right? So I can't. That perspective is totally different. It's like,
Yeah.
Silvery, if your brother does something, it's a bit of a, it's like a family thing. You also, it's a slap on your face. If Amitabh Bachchan did something, I mean, it's disconnected from you to a point. So it's not a fair question for me to answer because he doesn't owe me anything. Ajay doesn't owe me anything. But we look bad.
True.
When Kunal does that, we all look bad. My entire show looks bad. The people around him, all of us who
Yeah.
associate with each other, we look bad. We come from the same sort of elite South Bombay background, and pandemic, and people are suffering loss of job. And I mean, the show we are doing, the lampooning, all the trouble that India has, and we are like, standing up for justice in a
Yeah.
sense and all. And then he's sitting there and smiling. He's smiling. And by the way, this is before his weight loss. He didn't have the decency to
Oh.
lose weight and then do it. He did it now to be a little better. So I'm not going to point fingers at Ajay Devgan because the answer will be the same. Naukri ka
Yeah.
sawal hai. They are earning money. Now, if you look at it from that perspective, they are very happy to do it because they're earning money. As this is exactly what Kunal said on the message on the phone to my wife when we said, "What are you mad? This looks terrible and all." He said, "No, no, no. I'm doing it for them. They're earning money. There's been no work during pandemic. Literally, I wish I could preserve the text. I think I sent it to you.
That's true. Yeah.
Vani, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. This is a little personal. You
No,
have to sit through it.
that's perfectly fine. I'm enjoying. Yeah.
No, he
What
just
do you
Ajay
feel?
Devgan just got trolled. Basically, is I think that's the problem
Because
that
he was
everyone is
carried
having.
on a palki going up,
Yeah,
right?
it's carried on Paki and they got pictures and all of it. But yeah, the way you're saying it, it's very possible that with all the workers around, sir, later on, sir, humne bhi, like we
And
want to
then,
carry Ajay Devgan. That could be
yeah,
the fun part for them also.
there'll be a little bit of that, and
I don't know.
also they didn't think
Yeah.
it through, no? You don't think it through about how it looks until you're in the middle of it. Then visually it looks bad. There's no way out of it, no? It looks bad
Yeah,
even if there was
correct.
good times. Because the
Yeah,
rich man, poor guys carrying you, it just
yeah,
looks
yeah,
bad
yeah.
all the time. During
Correct.
pandemic, and if you're high profile, it looks horrible. And with Kunal, his face looks like a panda or something. I mean, it just looks wrong. The guy holding him, those four guys below, they've had one meal in the last month. And he's like popcorn, candy, Baja chalu kar, Jairam, it's that kind of, I mean, it's not
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say anything to Ajay Devgan. First, charity begins at home and all this moral judgment begins at home. Kunal has to be punished first if the government is listening. No Padma Shri for him.
Cool. All right, should we do one last question?
One last one.
Yeah, this one comes from Devanshi Thapar. She says, "Hi, Cyrus and dear guest. Big fan of the show. Independence Day is right around the corner, which it'll have gotten over by the time.
Independence Day is on
This episode will
15th
come out 2 days
August.
after.
Independence
So,
Day is on 15th
sorry.
August. I don't know.
Oh,
Did
she
you
said
see my
Independence
piece?
Day. She wants to say Republic Day, I'm sure. I think she said
They
Independence
spend
Day by
so
mistake.
much. I mean,
Yeah.
books are written.
Wow.
You go to class for it. They're two different days. Yeah, it's Saturday and Sunday. Farak hai na? I mean,
Wow.
I mean,
How did I
what
not
do we
read that?
do
Yeah, that's
now?
crazy.
Vani, what do we do? I don't know what to do. You're going after Ajay Devgan for the Palki. What about this?
This is your MTV Bakra moment, probably. I mean,
I know.
Yeah.
And
I
some
don't, I don't
elders are
mean
shouting
any
Gadar and all that. You're in the background. Desh Drohi, and I can hear all that now.
I don't want to mean that. I don't mean any disrespect to the person who's asked the question, but
Yeah.
yeah, kabhi kabhi galti ho jati hai. But this is
हो
your
जाती है,
exactly
I'm
what
sure. Yeah. Correct.
MTV Bakra
So
moment.
funny though.
Really
So
is.
funny.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
we'll disregard
But
the mistake and
yeah.
presume it's about Republic Day. Aage?
Yes. So she says Independence / Republic Day is right around the corner. Did you ever have the tradition in your family of attending flag hoistings? Or how about flag hoistings in school assemblies? Were you ever a fan of those?
I can't sit still. So I'm not the biggest fan of flag hoisting because then I feel under pressure. Because I'm dying to scratch my nose, even funerals, all these places where you have to sit still, I've really had trouble. Honestly, it's just not good for my personality type. And it's nothing to do with patriotism and non-patriotism. It's just the fact that you have to sit still, not move your leg, not move your elbow, not cough. That's the only time when you want to cough. Don't want to cough the whole day
And
afterwards.
smile, and probably smile at
And
everybody,
smile.
you know.
You still get away with Independence Day, Republic Day, the kind of thing because it's okay. But in funerals and all, I just don't want to go because I feel unless I'm really emotionally upset, where I'll definitely not be behaving badly, then I'm just like the guy waiting for the thing to blow up. I avoid eye contact with some joker because there'll be one happy, pleasant guy. Na? Everyone will be acting like this, but ek hoga na, ek kam se kam ek hoga who's like that, and his whole demeanor is different. Everyone else saying, "Arey, so sad, so young, so bad." All this guy will be, "Hey, Procha, what's up?" Just one guy, and that's all it takes. He's in the wrong movie.
Yeah.
Boom. Oh God, I hate those. Yeah. So about the jingoism point of it is a little different, but the buildings have started doing it. I'll tell you another Kunal story.
Yeah.
And we were drinking all night because, as you know, Republic Day is a dry day. So 25th night, we drank and drank in my drinking days as much as we could. And he must have reached home at 3 in the morning. And at 7:30 in the morning, his neighbors came because he had been made the chief guest of the building flag hoisting. And
Wow.
apparently he screamed and shouted, and because he was completely hungover, the last thing he wanted to do was wear pants, go down, hoist the flag, and sing national anthem.
Yeah, you get up at 3, 4 in the morning. You have to go down at like 7,
Yeah.
8 in the morning.
Yeah,
Man, that's a
In 3
nightmare.
hours or 4
Yeah.
hours they came, and
Correct.
they're
Yeah.
all, well, nice, happy kids and all. They're saying, uncle, all wear kurta pajama and national dress and community dresses and all that.
This guy wearing
And this
shades and
guy,
all. Like I can't look at
he was
people in the
wearing a
eyes.
towel, bottle of water.
Yeah.
So, but after chief guest, it was like, what? He agreed. He had agreed. It was his fault. He forgot.
If I,
Who remembers building chief guest, yeah?
That's
It's
true.
not
That's
his
true.
fault. Yeah.
if I may ask you, what is the weirdest request that has been made to you? Like the weirdest. Have people ever asked you
Great
to
question.
name their kids or something of that sort?
So I got a letter long ago when I was in MTV from UP, from Lucknow, maybe Lucknow, was it Kanpur? And the guy said he named his son Cyrus, and the surname was Srivastav, or a very typical,
Cyrus Srivastava. Okay.
yeah, or maybe it
Yeah.
was Saxena, one of these very common UP,
Yeah.
academic names. So yeah, and he said, so I was a little worried. What pressure now? I mean, all his brothers are, like Pratap and Rajiv and Sanjeev, and then this guy Cyrus. I mean, firstly, all his life, he's got to deal with that. So I was a little worried.
Yeah.
Maybe that wasn't the right decision. Like Washington Sundar, the cricketer. So he's named, he's a Tam Bram boy. Okay, father went to America, and his mentor, his guru, was a guy called Dr. Washington or something, American guy. So as respect, because we Indians do that, he gave it their name to his son. But his son is growing up in Chennai, somewhere deep in British Chennai, where there's nobody called Washington. I mean, everybody
Yeah, correct.
around him is got like Ashwin and Appu and
You know,
Ajay and Rakesh, and
the
suddenly there's
good
this
thing
guy
is
called
that
Washington.
you have people named after you are not dhabas and not those sort of things. Because, I remember Sonu Sood when last year this pandemic happened, people have named their dhabas and all as well, after
Sonu da
Sonu
Dhaba.
Sood.
Oh,
Any,
But
yeah.
Sonu,
Sonu da Dhaba is a
Cyrus ka
very Punjabi
dhaba. That
sounding.
would be good.
Yeah,
It
sounds fine
works,
in
na?
Punjabi.
It,
Yeah.
it sounds really normal.
Yeah.
But imagine if they took a completely different name, like Beatrice ka dhaba or something. Some name doesn't make sense.
What if
So
they just
yeah.
call the dhaba Sonu Sood the dhaba, and then can Sonu Sood come and say, "Hey, mera dhaba hai, niklo yahan se." Can you like take ownership? Does it work like that? I don't know. Probably doesn't.
No.
That'd be interesting.
Look,
Did
firstly,
you by any chance did you ever see your posters being displayed at places that you really did not expect?
I'm so petty. In a couple of film releases that happened, I have stood outside like Eros and all that, and I had my friends take pictures of me and the photo. And that a person who does that is not really famous. A person like that is in a hurry to keep the fame because it's going fast. So you gotta capture the moment. You won't see you won't see Hrithik Roshan doing that or something who's really famous.
Hmm.
But yeah, but those are lovely. When hoardings, when I've done ads in the hoardings I've run, and they've been in my normal route. Like I remember my son was taking the bus and all that, so he would have to. Of course, he had to cop a little flack from the other kids because it's not always cool to
Yeah.
have your father
Yeah.
dressed in a pajama on a hoarding. I think it was some biscuit ad, and so it didn't work the way I wanted to. But you do. My mother and all would feel very good. My son, that kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, how cruel fame is. Maybe we can rent hoardings now in Bombay, boss. We can just put our names up for no reason. Why do you give me a great idea? Let me see.
Yeah, we
Yes,
can. Correct.
Yeah.
absolutely. So very soon we are going to. I have your address. So very soon we are going to have people, surrounding your house and probably wanting to see one glimpse of you. और जैसे शाहरुख दर्शन होता है, ऐसे साइरस
Yeah.
दर्शन एक
Cyrus
करके
done.
हो-
Wow. Nice.
I mean, actors charge money, Vani. It's not going to be easy. Actors do charge money to come and pay devotees character and all that, right, Silvery? Even extras, the amount of you have to pay 2,000 a day minimum, here.
Wait,
Paid
but
about
not for
five.
the crowd outside Shah Rukh Khan's house.
No,
Those
yeah,
are all fans. No?
not for him, for me, you idiot. For him, they're
Oh,
real.
for you.
Huh.
I mean, yeah. So for you also, it'll be real only, Cyrus. That's what I'm saying. There'll be enough real
No,
people for you
they're not
also.
real. In Malabar Hill, people looking at your house want to buy it. There's no other reason. Nobody's coming for any other reason. Chalo, Vani, I have to go and drop my daughter to her friend's house.
So maybe you could consider a nice name for your house as well, like Mannat or something.
You want me to just become Shah Rukh Khan?
No,
Please.
something. I'm saying. I'm giving you an example.
I don't mind. Throw him out. I'll live there. I'll give him my house. He's very sweet. My mom and him will get along very well. She's very fond of him. So we put Shah Rukh here. I take over Manat. That's our plan. Silvery, plenty smart. Seconds later is the book. Vani Kaushal is our author. We thank you for coming on the show, and please come again and again and again and discuss other things, not just your writings. It's always going to be fun. All right,
Thank you.
go and buy the book.
Thank you.
It's very exciting, very fast paced. It's great fun, and we're looking forward to Vani's next book, which will come out maybe this year.
Yes. Hopefully.
Great,
Fingers crossed.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Done.
Thank you so much, Cyrus. Thank you, Antariksh.
Thank you so much.
Cyrus
Vani.
Daruwala checking out here. 6 foot tall, remember, black hair, good body, motorbike, Harley Davidson, no less.
And a
then
sex
the
scene on
truth.
page number 106. Yeah, correct.
106. Don't forget that.
Yeah,
Check it out.
correct.
I'm fantastic in bed, apparently. Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.